Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Delia Fernandez. I'm a certified financial planner, and I'm here to talk to you about building a good credit history and maintaining good credit. And I actually have a personal interest and experience in this. For 12 years before I became a financial planner, I actually worked at one of the largest credit reporting agencies in the country, TRW's credit reporting agency, which was the precursor to Experian. So I had an opportunity to talk to the public, especially to talk to women about establishing and maintaining good credit. So it's my pleasure to be able to share this information with you today. Let's go take a look at what we're going to talk about. This is a part of our Financial Planning Association's Orange County chapter pro bono opportunity program on essentials of financial literacy. And today we're going to, as I said, we're going to talk about building and maintaining a good credit history. But first, before we get started, exactly what is financial literacy? Because we have a whole program for you on different topics. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. We want to give you the knowledge, skills, and tools needed to make informed financial decisions, to manage financial resources effectively, to confidently take action to achieve your financial goals. Now, what we're not doing, and this is, you can tell by the small type, this is what the attorneys tell us we have to remind everybody of, is we're not giving you specific individual financial advice. We're not giving you legal advice. We're not giving you tax advice. We're not giving you investment advice. So this is all very general, and we hope that you will consult your own advisors when you're looking for something that pertains specifically to your situation. Okay, now the lawyers are happy. So let's talk about building a credit history. Now, what are the benefits of a good credit history? Well, let's face it, we can't pay for everything with cash. That's just not possible. Most of us don't have the cash to pay for a house. We don't have the cash to pay for a car. So we need to turn to credit. So if you have a good credit history, you pay less interest, and that means everything costs you less. You pay lower interest rates on credit cards and loans. You have more negotiating power. The better your credit history, the more somebody is going to want to lend to you. So you're in the catbird seat. You get easier approval when renting houses and apartments, because certainly they can check your credit report and will probably want to. And believe it or not, you will get better car insurance rates, because little known to people is the fact that insurance companies can go and check our credit report, because there's some correlation between our credit history, how we pay our bills on time, and our driving history. So if we have good credit, we could actually get better car insurance rates. And of course, some employers use credit reports in order to make employment decisions. This is particularly true when you're in a secure environment, when you're dealing with highly confidential data, when you're in the financial world. They have the right, they have to let you know, but they have the right to pull your credit report. So let's take a look at what is involved in a credit report. It is a history of your loan and bill payments kept by a credit reporting company or agency. And it's used to determine, based on your history of payments, how likely it is that your future debt is going to be repaid. You know, if you were a good payer in the past, you're likely to be a good payer in the future. A credit reporting agency or company is an organization that compiles credit information on consumers, and it makes it available to its subscribers for a fee. These three largest companies in the industry are Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Now, the credit score that they may provide as credit bureaus may be different than other credit scoring companies. But what they're going to do is to try to boil down your credit history to a number based on a statistical model. And this objectively predicts the likelihood that the debt is going to be repaid on time. I think we're seeing a theme here, right? So what is a good credit score? Well, let's take a look at one of the largest credit scoring companies in the country, and that is the Fair Isaacs and Company, and what we call their score is the FICO score, Fair Isaacs and Company. You have exceptional credit if you get a score of between 8 to 850. That's right up there. And if I were you, I wouldn't sweat over getting 834 versus 854. That's kind of noise. If you're up in the 800s, you're fine. You are really very good on credit history if you have a score between 740 to 799. In fact, those are the two areas I want you to really focus on. If you're in one of the other scoring columns, like good between 670 and 739, or fair at 580 to 669, or poor between 300 and 579, it's likely that you're going to pay more for credit, but it gives you a number that you can then take a look at and realize that there's some improvement that needs to be done here, because you want to at least get into that high 600s to low 700s. Obviously, you're looking towards that very good. So let's go take a look at what's involved in this credit score. Well, there are 5 factors in the general FICO model. They have this up on their website. Payment history, we can see, is the most important one. And this is when they go take a look at your credit card and your loan payments. That would be auto loans, home loans, credit cards, revolving credit, maybe at a store where you bought some furniture and appliance. And they want to see that you've paid mostly on time. If it was on time each time, that would be great. The amounts owed is 30% of this score. Now let's talk about this, because if a credit card company gives you a $5,000 credit limit, it's like, great, I get to borrow up to $5,000. Well, the truth is on these credit scoring models that they really want you to use 50% of that or less, ideally. It doesn't quite seem fair. I get a $5,000 limit. Why am I only supposed to borrow $2,500 or less? But they worry that if you start creeping up to the highest point of the credit limit, that maybe you're stretching yourself too thin, and maybe you will soon be in arrears and be late on your payments. So they take a look at the amount owed and they look at that score globally, and they really do want to see it at about 30% of your outstanding, of your possible credit limit. Length of credit history, of course, the more the better, but for some people, if you're in your 20s, you can't have 10 years of credit history if you just got started 5 years ago. I remember somebody complaining to me about that. She was a young banker and she had had credit for 3 years. And one of the things that they noted on her credit score was she didn't have 10 years of credit history. Well, of course she didn't. Credit mix is the different types of credit you have. Do you just have credit cards, or do you also have like a car loan or another kind of installment loan? Do you have a mortgage? And then they're going to look at how much new credit you have just received. Now, interestingly enough, new credit looks like you were a good credit risk, which is true. But if you have too much new credit, a credit grantor is going to take a look at that and say, wow, well, what if she runs up all that credit in addition to the credit she wants to get from me, in addition to the other credit that she has available to her? So sometimes it doesn't seem fair, but they add all of this together. They could also have the fact that you might be, depending on where you are, in where you live, you might have delinquent child support payments, but you may also have some increase in your score if you have somebody like Equifax reporting your utility bills. So there's a lot involved in this credit scoring system. Now, I hope that all of you will go out and take a look at your credit report. This is an example that we've put together. It's not exact. It's just trying to be a blend of what all the credit bureaus put together. And we know we can get that free credit report at annualcreditreport.com. So look at the types of information that a credit bureau is going to report on us on our credit reports. The first section is identifying information, which from the credit bureau is really limited to name, address, social security number, year of birth. They may have address histories for up to 5 years or more. Now, in this example, they're right to have the employment listed. But it's not because credit bureaus go out and search for that information. It's because the company that inquired recently about you may just enter that data when they make that request or inquiry for your credit report. So you may find that that information is old. Maybe you applied for credit 3 years ago, and this is a job from 3 years ago. The second category of information they have is public record information, which is limited to tax liens, judgments, and bankruptcies. There may be a kind of report that a potential landlord will pull that will show if you've ever been evicted from an apartment or other rental property, and that's called an unlawful detainer. That's also public record information, but we typically do not find it on a credit report. It's a special report that goes out to potential landlords. The third area would be collection accounts. Now, we don't ever want to see a collection account on our credit report, but this is when the credit bureau has gone out to the public record and has discovered that somebody took you to court to pay a bill, and the court said that you owed that bill, and so the court issued a judgment against you. So there might be, well, that's public record information. So the public record information, again, tax liens, judgments, and bankruptcies. The collection account is when a creditor has had to write off this debt. They figured they couldn't collect from you anymore. They may have given you 6 or 9 months. And then they said, you know, we're done. We're handing it over to a collection account, a special company. You do not want to see that your debt got so old and that they were so unable to collect from you that they had to turn it over to a collection agency. That's a very bad sign. Future creditor is going to look at that and say, oh no, what if she does that to me too? The fourth area are what we call trades or trade lines. And these are actually reports from each of your creditors that say what kind of an account it is, when it was opened, when it was last verified or information reported, high balance and high credit limit, current balance, and the term of the loan. Is it a revolving loan? Is it a 48-month automobile loan? Is it your responsibility or is it a joint account? That can be very important. Or are you just an authorized user on a credit card? So here we see also that the status is that it's an open account. It could be that you have good credit history listed, but the account has been closed because you paid off the loan. That's good. That's good credit history too. Good credit history can stay on for an unlimited amount of time, but typically most accounts drop off after 7 years, unless you file bankruptcy, in which case that can stay on for 10. But let's take a look at how they report the payment history. We can see that in green or in some way or another on the credit report, it's going to show that you're paid on time in those given periods. In this case, we've got every month listed, but we had a 30-day late, or just a 30-day late in May of 2018. And then in April of 2018, it was 60 days. And in May of 2018, it was 30 days. Kind of looks like that should have been reversed. In April, it should have started as a 30-day late. And then the next month, if you still hadn't paid it, it would have been 60 days. Then we have a couple of other trade lines. We have your bank account. And in that example, it's a mortgage and it's a joint account. And we see, thank goodness, we see it's a 30-year loan and all the payment history has been good. Then we have a department store card, which this is another revolving card. This is your individual card. When it was open, when it was last verified, it's still open. It did have a 30-day late payment, but everything since then has been good. And that's really good because if you had any problems, you want them to be in the past, right? I like to say time heals credit wounds, which is really nice. And this last account is a bank account, your individual account, and this is for a car loan. This is an installment sale for an automobile. This one has always been paid on time. It's still open and it's a 5-year loan. Then finally, the fifth area of your credit report is going to have credit inquiries. Now let's think about this. A creditor, when you apply for credit, is going to go in and request your credit report, and that's considered a hard inquiry. And that report is a part of your credit score. That's when the credit bureaus and the scoring system say, oh, she applied for credit. We need to keep an eye on this because maybe she's applying all over town for a lot of different credit. But when you and I go out and get our own credit report, that's considered a soft inquiry. It doesn't show on a credit scoring system. We can go out and take a look at our credit report every day, 5 times a day, if you want to pay for it. There's no problem with doing that. Third, your existing creditors, the ones that we see here on the credit report, can often go in, and I see them go in like about every month. I'll see people's credit reports, and their existing creditors will go in and say, well, how's she doing with everybody else? Is she paying them on time? Especially if you have a revolving card where the credit line, the credit interest that they're charging you could vary. They might decide that if you're going late with other creditors, or if your credit limit is sneaking up, they may put you on a watch list to consider raising your interest rate on your card. So we want to pay on time, and we want to make sure to pay as agreed, whatever the dollar amount is that we're supposed to pay. And we want to make sure that we check our credit history so that the data is accurate, and hope that if we did have some problems in the past, that enough time will pass that that bad information will drop off. Again, negative information can stay on under law for 7 years, unless it's a bankruptcy, which can stay on for 10. Now, typically the Fair Credit Reporting Act differentiates between a Chapter 7 bankruptcy, where we write off all of our debt, that can stay on for 10 years, or a Chapter 13, where we repay part of our debt, and that can stay on for 7. But again, good credit history that's open, that can stay on forever, and that's just good for your team. That's just good to see on your credit report. So again, how do we check our credit reports? Well, we want to go out to annualcreditreport.com, and we can check all 3 of these bureau reports. We can go to Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. We can get those reports directly through annualcreditreport.com. But if you have any trouble with these companies, you can go out to them directly and talk to them. You can also go out and you can freeze your credit reports, which is an important security step that you might want to take. It could slow you down in getting new credit, because you're going to have to go and unfreeze your credit reports to get credit under those credit bureaus. But I find I do this, and I will call the lender and say to them, which credit bureau do you use? Which one should I unfreeze? I go unfreeze it, and then they'll go ahead and pull the report, and then the account will be frozen again. The credit report will be frozen again. And it's a good way to secure your information. So when we check our credit report, what if we find an error? Well, you should get back to the credit reporting company, and you can do that again through annualcreditreport.com. The federal law says we can dispute inaccuracies and have the credit bureau go and check them out. They've got a certain period of time to do that, and then they have to get back to us and either correct that data or give us a reason why not. And then if we wanted to, we could add a statement to our file that tells our side of the story. So we dispute the information, we have the credit bureau investigate it, and we hope that they can correct inaccuracies and update their files. Otherwise, we could add a statement to our report. Now, let's talk about what's really important to keep our credit history good. And we may not think about this, but a good emergency fund is going to help you maintain good credit. Well, what is a good emergency fund? This is some money that we set aside that's going to be available to us very quickly to cover maybe 3 to 6 months worth of our living expenses, our needs, not our wants. I may want to go shopping for new clothes, but I need to make sure that I pay my mortgage and I pay my utility bills. Why do we do this? Well, it protects us against lost income. What if I lose my job? Or an unexpected expense? An unexpected expense that I might have to put on a credit card ordinarily, but maybe I just went on a trip, and so my credit limit is really used up. Having an emergency fund is going to help me keep my credit intact as good credit. And where do we put this money? We want to make sure that it is in an insured savings or checking account. FDIC insurance is the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. And this is where we're covered by our banks, is the FDIC insurance. Credit unions can also be a good place to put our money. They have insurance that's equivalent through the National Credit Union Association. So when you put in $1 in a savings or checking account, it's insured, it's not invested, so that you know that that money is going to be there if and when you need to go get it. So that's what's really important about an emergency fund. So with anything related to your finances, we need to figure out where you want to be, and we need to make a plan to get you there to build and maintain a good credit history. So what are the tools that we use to do that? Well, first, we need to develop a budget and stick with it. You know, a new credit card does not mean that you have new money. It means that you have a credit line to use if you need to use it, but it doesn't mean you suddenly got richer. It just means that you have credit, and we need to use it wisely. We want to make sure, as I said earlier about an emergency fund, that you save money so that you're prepared for a rainy day, maybe 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses, so that you don't have to live off of your credit cards. That's just the absolute wrong time to have to turn to credit. You need to have that emergency money waiting for you so that you can keep your credit history good. And then we want you to be able to pay your bills on time. This is very important. And sometimes I know when people get under stress, they're like, well, I forgot to pay my bills on time. But you know, you can set that up to happen automatically out of your bank account. At least pay the minimum on your credit cards. I'd like to see you pay more, but all of your bills need to be paid on time. I know I set mine up to be paid on time. If it's a car loan, if it's a lease payment, if it's a mortgage payment, I just want it paid. It's got to be paid on time. And as I said when we were discussing FICO scores and other credit scores, you need to keep your credit card balances low and aim to pay them off monthly. Now, that can be a very satisfying feeling if you do it regularly. It's like, yes, I didn't have to pay any interest. I won this game. I got to borrow the money. I didn't have to pay to borrow it. So if nothing else, try to keep those credit card balances at that 30% or lower amount of whatever the credit limit is that you've been given on your credit cards. So that's an important number if you can't pay them off completely every month. And then be sure to check your credit reports annually to be sure that they're accurate and dispute any information that's inaccurate. Especially if you have a common last name like Fernandez or Lee or Smith, we need to be checking our credit reports to be sure that nobody else's information is confused with ours. Now, we have some tools and resources available to you at our website for the Financial Planning Orange County Pro Bono website, FPAOC We really hope that you will go there and download this information, which includes a credit report review checklist. And we hope that you will visit our website at FPAOCProBono.org to schedule a free personal financial planning session with a CFP professional. I can't stress enough, this is absolutely free. You will get a real CFP professional. We are not allowed to try to sell something. We have volunteered to talk to you and help you with your financial situation. So if you find yourself in a bit of a financial pickle, I hope that you'll go out and arrange for an appointment so somebody can help you through these steps to figure out your budget, your credit, take a look at your credit report, figure out how you're going to be able to maintain that good credit. And we also want you to think about the following references that were used in this presentation. There was a paper out of the Dallas Federal Reserve, dallasfed.org, called Building Wealth, a beginner's guide to securing your financial future, Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. And the FDIC, remember that's the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, the FDIC Smart Money Financial Education Program at fdic.gov. Again, we really appreciate you joining us here today. We're here to help. We gave you these materials hoping that it'll help you build and maintain a great credit history. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you for joining us.